This week's Reefing news. One of the 7 natural wonders of the world is in serious trouble. This month, the people who know coral reefs better than anyone gathered in Auckland, and the word they kept coming back to was collapse. This is the state of the reef in 2026, what's really happening, why it matters far beyond Australia, and the science fighting to save it. So the big one. The Great Barrier Reef is back in the headlines, and not for good reasons. This week, the world's coral scientists met at the International Coral Reef Symposium in Auckland. It's the biggest gathering of reef science on the planet, and it only happens every 4 years. And the message coming out of it was blunt. Professor Morgan Pratchett of James Cook University put it like this: it is, quote, not outside of the realm of possibility that the next major disturbance will lead to localized species extinctions and widespread ecosystem collapse. Collapse. That's the word being used now by the people who study this for a living. The reef did just narrowly dodge being placed on UNESCO's World Heritage in Danger list. But the researchers were clear the pressure is not letting up. Now, if we're going to talk about this properly, let's be clear on what bleaching actually is, because it's more subtle than the coral dies. A coral is an animal. But living inside its tissue are millions of tiny algae called zooxanthellae. That algae is the coral's food factory and its color. It's a partnership. The coral gives the algae a home, and the algae feeds the coral through photosynthesis. When the water gets too warm, that partnership breaks down. The coral spits the algae out. And without it, the coral turns bone white. That's bleaching. It hasn't died yet. It's starving. If the heat passes quickly, the coral can take its algae back and recover. If it stays too hot for too long, the coral starves and dies. And here's the part from Auckland that people miss: it isn't heat alone. Dr. Christopher Cornwall of Victoria University of Wellington explained that warming, ocean acidification, and falling oxygen all stack together, slowing the very rate at which corals build their skeletons. So even the survivors are being weakened. So how bad is it really? Let's look at the actual record, because the trend is the story. Coral bleaching on the Great Barrier Reef isn't brand new. It was recorded in patches back in 1980, 1982, and 1987. But those were localized. The first mass bleaching event, reef-wide, the kind you can see from a plane, was 1998. Then 2002. And then a 14-year gap. But look what's happened since. 2016, 2017 back-to-back for the first time, 2020, 2022, 2024. And 2025. That last one in 2024 to 2025 was the reef's 7th mass bleaching event, and the 5th in just 10 years. We've gone from a 14-year gap between events to bleaching almost every single year. The gaps are collapsing. And this is a global story. We are living through the 4th global coral bleaching event, from 2023 to 2025, and it's the worst ever recorded. Look at the escalation. The first global event in 1998 hit 21% of the world's reefs. The second, 37%. The third, 68%. This one, 84%. 84% of all the coral reefs on Earth hit by bleaching level heat. And it's not just Australia. Professor Paul Kench of the University of Waikato reminded everyone of the scale. Around a quarter of all the world's coral reefs, about 26%, are in the Pacific. And more than 700,000 people depend on reef islands, nations like Tuvalu, Kiribati, and the Marshall Islands, for their land, their food, and their protection from the sea. The reef is literally the ground they stand on. So when we talk about reefs collapsing, this isn't only about losing something beautiful. It's about people losing their homes. And this is happening right now, not in some distant forecast. Over in the Florida Keys, the 2026 bleaching season has already started. A scientist with the United States Geological Survey, Dr. Lauren Toth, photographed pale and bleaching star corals in the Lower Keys in mid-July. The American Ocean Monitoring Agency has much of Florida sitting at bleaching alert level 1. It's early season and localized for now, not the mass die-off of 2023, but with El Niño still in charge, it's exactly what everyone will be watching as the northern summer peaks.
Right. That's the hard part.
Now the hope, and there is real, genuine hope. And some of the best of it is British. You may know Dr. Jamie Craggs, the aquarium curator at the Horniman Museum in London. Through Project Coral, he cracked something people thought was nearly impossible: getting coral to spawn, predictably, on demand, inside a closed aquarium. Not in the ocean.
In a tank.
That technology is now being exported through his company, Coral Spawning International. And this year it delivered. A new breeding lab on Praslin Island in the Seychelles recorded its very first coral spawning. The numbers are staggering. Around 800,000 coral embryos, from just 14 parent colonies, and roughly 65,000 baby corals settled. And here's the crucial bit. They're using sexual reproduction, actual eggs and sperm, not just fragging clones. That means genetic diversity. And genetic diversity is exactly what these reefs need to have any chance of adapting to a warmer ocean. That is hobby-born science, aquarium science, now helping to rebuild wild reefs. Here's another one, and reefers are going to love this because it's basically our chemistry. One of the biggest reasons reefs struggle to recover naturally is that baby corals die young. The early life stage is brutal, most don't make it. So researchers at the University of Miami tried something simple. They settled baby corals onto cement tiles made with sodium carbonate, which nudges up the alkalinity right at the coral's surface. The result? Survival of baby mountainous star coral jumped from about 12% to about 52%. That's roughly 4 times as many babies making it. And if you keep a reef tank, you're smiling right now, because alkalinity is the thing we obsess over every single day. It turns out the same chemistry we dose at home could help scale up restoration on real reefs. And there's a hunt on for the toughest corals, the ones that can already take the heat. There's a clever bit of kit that heat stresses coral samples in just a few hours to spot the naturally heat-tolerant individuals. Find the survivors, protect them, breed from them. But I want to be straight with you because good science stays honest. A study this year in the journal Current Biology sounded a careful note of caution. Those quick heat shock tests may not reliably predict which corals actually survive a real, drawn-out marine heat wave. Breeding genuinely heat-proof coral is harder than a single lab test makes it look. It's a tool, not a magic wand. And the researchers in Auckland were clear-eyed about that, even framing it around a lovely idea from Associate Professor Dan Hikuroa, being a good ancestor, weaving indigenous knowledge and long-term thinking into how we manage reefs, judging every decision by what it leaves for the generations after us. Now let's lift the mood because it's not all doom. Even as we're fighting to save reefs, we're still discovering brand new species on them. 2 crackers this year. First, a gorgeous little perchlet called Plectrantheus reiki, found about 122 meters down in the Maldives twilight zone. Instead of the bold stripes its cousins wear, this one's dappled with orange red patches along its back. And the name reiki literally means shy to confront people, because it's such a bashful little thing. And second, a brand new comb-tooth blenny Exenius marcoleni from the Raja Ampat Islands in Indonesia. About 5 centimeters, with a single unbroken dark stripe down its whole body. If you keep reef tanks, you know the Exenius crowd, your bicolor and tailspot blennies, proper reef-safe characters. Neither's in the trade, these are scientific descriptions. But it's a lovely reminder, there's a whole world down there we haven't even said hello to yet. So what can we actually do as reefers? First, go and see the science. The Horniman Museum in London has its Project Coral and the Journey of Hope exhibition open, and free, the very lab science we've been talking about, right there to visit. And 2 big shows are on the calendar. Reefapalooza, California, the 29th and 30th of August in Anaheim, America's largest saltwater show. Seminars, a huge coral and livestock marketplace, all the manufacturers. Then Aquashella, New Jersey, the 12th and 13th of September in Edison, a brilliant mixed fresh and saltwater day out with names like Brett Raymer off Tanked, and honestly. Just keeping a healthy tank, propagating your own corals, supporting captive-bred livestock, that is part of the story. The hobby and the science are on the same side. So that's where the reef stands in 2026. It's in real trouble, the record is clear, and the scientists aren't sugarcoating it. But the science is fighting back harder than ever. Corals are being spawned in aquariums and shipped across oceans. Babies are being kept alive with a bit of clever chemistry. And the survivors are being hunted down and protected. The reef needs us paying attention. So if this was useful, give it a like. It genuinely helps. Hit subscribe for the weekly roundups, and all the sources are in the description. Until next time, keep those reefs happy.